Hi, this is Daniela Wolf with Bestie Life, the podcast, and this is your community to support you through the little and not so little events that make up your day-to-day life. From the I've got this moments to the I just can't moments. We are here to empower all women to find and develop the skills they need to find peace, balance, and the bliss in their busy. Through solo episodes as well as interviews with amazing women who share their journey and their story and how it works for you. I hope you find the inspirations to make you laugh, think, as well as maybe rethink what you thought you knew, and connect as we realize that we are all living similar ups and downs and don't have to do it alone. So excited for you to hear this episode, and thanks so much for joining me today. Hi, this is Daniela with Bestie Life, the podcast, and today I am excited to dive into one of the many key topics for my upcoming book, Balance Breakthrough, on how to build boundaries and reclaim your time. This is one of the foundations that I love to talk about when it comes to going from exhausted to empowered, and I'm giving you a sneak peek behind the scenes before the book hits the shelves. So if you're someone who feels stretched too thin or struggles with saying no, stick around because I've got some actionable steps that are going to help you take back control of your time. So I want to talk a bit about why boundaries even matter, because let's be real, boundaries often get a bad rap, even though personally they're one of my favorite B words. I think people feel like setting boundaries can mean they're being selfish or difficult, but that's completely not true. And in the book, Balance Breakthrough, I really talk a lot about how boundaries are actually a form not only of self-respect, but they're truly freeing and a way to protect your energy and your mental space. Unfortunately, I think a lot of times, we're conditioned to think overworking is the only path to success. If you're not hustling, you're not going to get ahead and that type of thing, as opposed to realizing that when you say yes to everything, you are going to set yourself on that path to burnout. And I've talked to so many women and clients who say, they really struggle when it comes to putting those boundaries in place, because sometimes it's even things they want to say yes to. It's not that they feel like out of obligation. They have so many passions, so many interests, so many things they want to do, but that can still really set yourself up for getting burnt out. And everybody, that I've worked with finds that once they start setting those boundaries, their workloads not only become more manageable, but they're actually more productive. They are able to do more things by putting some of those boundaries in place. They have more mental energy, more time in their day, more freedom to then include all the things that they're interested in. Also, those boundaries too, when I talk about self-respect, you're really teaching other people how to treat you, how much you're willing to tolerate and deal with and take on. And so, if we can't just assume they should see that I feel this way, they should know that I'm uncomfortable with this. You need to really kind of set the stage for what your boundaries are in order for other people to truly follow them. Now, the first step then when it comes to setting those boundaries is identifying your non-negotiables. And this is about really getting clear on what truly matters to you. And it's not just work. I think a lot of times we talk about our non-negotiables with work, and that's definitely important. But also when it comes to our family time, our friend time, our exercise, creative projects, really writing down the things or making a mental list of what you're not willing to sacrifice, what really matters to you in the bigger scheme of when you look back on your day, your week, your year. What are the things that you either feel like you're missing out on and not getting enough on, or you want to make sure you keep doing because those are the things that fill you up, that light you up, that make you happy, that are part of your regular self-care. I know for me, some of my non-negotiables are my morning and my nighttime routine when it comes to exactly, what has to happen during those times. Maybe the amount of time can vary, but I always include, in the morning, I've got my movement, I've got some meditation, I've got some me time. And at the night, I always do my skincare routine. I always do some reading, some gratitude, as well as even just I put boundaries around my phone after 10 o'clock every day. For the most part, I don't see my phone messages, emails. People know if it's an emergency, call my husband's number. But I really have some protective time because I know personally I need some of that aloneness in order to recharge, in order to be able to show up as my best self on a day-to-day basis. So first, you're going to find your non-negotiables. The second step has to do with practicing saying no, even when it's hard. And especially, I'm a people pleaser. I want to help. I want to be available to do that. But I think, again, some of the things we've been conditioned with, or that we assume, some of those limiting beliefs, is that we think that saying no makes us a bad person. But in fact, it really actually can make us a more effective one. And a simple script that I use, as well as I give to clients to use, is, I'd love to help, but I don't have the time right now. I don't have the capacity right now. And that alone is clear, it's respectful, it's firm. Personally, I always love to then offer the option of when I am available, what works for me, So I can remember when my kids were younger, the PTA always wanted people to bring this in, volunteer for that, bake cookies for this. And if it didn't work for me, I would say, I don't have the time right now, but can I sign up for next month? Can you put me on the list for the next time? So that I know in advance, I can build it into my schedule. And so I've still maintained my boundary at that point, but then open the opportunity to still be in alignment with how I want to give back, how I want to show up and be supportive to others. The next step when it comes to our boundaries is communicating our boundaries clearly. Okay, there's a quote I saw that says, a boundary is only as strong as how well you communicate it. Let's say that again, okay? A boundary is only as strong as how well you communicate it. Because like I said, so many times we don't communicate what our boundaries are, and then we get upset and resentful of the fact that people don't see what we need. They don't, read our mind. We assume they should understand, but we never actually said. And it's not that you have to justify or over-explain yourself. Again, just being very direct of, say, I'm not available for meetings after 5 o'clock. Again, that's a boundary. You've communicated it. You can have an outgoing email. It says, thanks so much. I respond between such and such business hours. If it's something more urgent, give them an option. This is who you can go to if you have a more urgent need. Or again, offer the opportunity, like, I'm not able to meet at that time, but could we do during this time on a different day? Communication, I think, is one of the areas when it comes to our boundaries that we hold back on, again, because of some of those assumptions we make, thoughts, limiting beliefs. But once we start communicating them, we see that it gives us the freedom to plan our day in the way that we are looking to, as well as it gives everybody else then the freedom to work with us so that we are all in alignment, we are all on the same page and working together. And then that last part is sticking to them. And now that can be hard, to actually follow through on. And definitely in the book, I talk about, how boundary setting isn't a one and done type thing. It's a skill that you need to practice and develop over time. And there might be times, we want to be flexible with our boundary. Maybe we get some pushback as part of the process. But again, having that boundary in place is at least a starting point to then make a decision so that you're able to respond rather than feel like you're always just reacting because you don't know necessarily from what place you're actually making that decision. But in general, when you consistently enforce those boundaries, you're going to notice things like you have more energy, less resentment, and just in general, more time for the things that actually matter or that we say actually matter to us. And then we are able to not only show up to our responsibilities and our things that we have to do, but really feel like we are incorporating more and more of the things we want to do so that we're ending each day feeling fulfilled. Feeling like, okay, I got this. It doesn't mean everything's perfect. Doesn't mean things are always equal. When I talk about work-life balance, it's not about everything being equal. But we feel like, we're investing in ourselves as much as we invest in everybody else around us. And, this is the kind of transformation that you can kind of expect when you work through the Exhausted to Empowered formula in the Balance Breakthrough book. So today, I know it's a quick episode, but I wanted to just give you some of the basics when it comes to building boundaries and how they're really that first step towards reclaiming your time and your energy. So if today's episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to grab a spot on the waitlist to pre-order the book. I'm going to have some great bonuses for everybody who pre-orders. And in general, you're going to love it because it's filled with really practical steps and real-world examples to help you go from burnout to breakthrough, to help you work through all the different processes when it comes to really taking charge of your work, life, and well-being. So mark your calendars. Balanced Breakthrough is coming out at the end of October, but grab a spot on that wait list so that you can stay updated on all things book related. You can head on over to my website, sign up for that spot, and get all sorts of the sneak peeks into different parts of the books. So thank you so much for joining me today. Please remember, you don't have to do it all. Give yourself the grace to not do everything perfectly. You can start setting boundaries that make sense for you. Start with small no's, start with small places that feel comfortable, and trust me, your future self will thank you. Thanks so much again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know any questions or comments that you have. Also, if you can please leave an Apple 5-star review so that this episode can be shared with more women. There's 2 quotes that I love. Alone we may be strong, but together we are stronger, as well as when women support each other, incredible things happen. So let's be stronger and incredible together, as well as maybe just have some fun along the way. Thanks so much and talk to you soon. Bye.